I want to warmly welcome you all again to our first lecture of the 2013-14 season here at the History Colorado Center. For those of you who I have not yet had the chance to meet, a special hello to you. My name is Sean Snow, and I'm the Public Programs Coordinator here at the museum. Today, of course, we are gathered to hear from R. Douglas Hurt as he discusses Dust Bowl, Colorado, causes and consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause as we welcome him to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
You know, I thought when I was invited to speak about the Dust Bowl, this is a period in our history that has scarred so many people. I mean, really, how many of you grew up in the 30s? A few. How about the 50s? You're in the Philippines. Well, a lot more about you. How many of you are from plains of Colorado? I learned this afternoon at lunch from Erin Murray, maybe she escaped, that it's not Baca County, it's Baca. I learned a lot. So I guess if you say Baca County, you immediately pegged as an outsider. So I learned that. The region of the Dust Bowl has caught a lot of attention lately. I think partly because we have enough distance to think about it with some detachment and some degree of analysis that is not entirely emotional, although it was a very emotional time. I found that when you talk to people that lived through this period, really they bear an indelible scar. It's true, it's there. They lived at a time in which not only were they confronting the economic problems of the Great Depression, but this was a double whammy. And it does have a psychological scar. Talk to any people that grew up in this period, and one of the things that we'll say, and in fact I just mentioned just a moment ago, and what do you say? Terrible. Terrible. That's a very characteristic response. It doesn't say enough, and yet it's almost the most powerful word that we can conjure up to express our emotions about all of this. But people reflect on this, and maybe some of you saw the Ken Burns special in the Dust Bowl not too long ago, and I had people talk about it and said, you know, when I saw that, it brought tears to my eyes. I cried because they'd gone through that. It's a very emotional attachment there. But it's affected people in ever so many ways. My aunt told me just the other day. In fact, she grew up in western Kansas during the 30s, dirty and nasty, and lived this experience. And it's about the time she met my uncle. And before she got serious, she asked him if he was a farmer, because she was from a farm family. And she said the last thing she was going to do was marry a farmer. So before she got too far involved in this, she wanted to make sure that he wasn't a farmer. So this is something that's touched people in many ways. What I'm going to do is sort of paint a very broad picture about the Dust Bowl today and talk about how it has affected even us today. I like to think about footprints. When I think about history, I like to see some evidence that something happened of consequence, and that we can look out and we can see it today. And there are a couple of things that I'm sure you've seen, but I want to call your attention to it a little bit more. I guess the first thing to do is just to define the region very roughly and generally. What I want to talk about is a period of extensive drought that lasted, it really begins in the autumn of 1931, comes into this area with particular force in 32, and lasts until 38 particularly, when we see some rains returning a little bit more so in 39, and by 1940, it's pretty much back to normal precipitation. So think of this area. There you can see Baca County, and that hash section there is the most severe wind erosion area. Take all of that 1930s group there, and roughly you're talking about 97 million acres. I know it's hard to get a handle on what 97 million acres is. That's the area the Soil Conservation Service said was the primary blow area or wind erosion area. To put it in context, right there, Baca County, you've got about 1 million acres. So that's the kind of the general area there. And it shifts back and forth. If you think about it from north to south, about 400 miles, east to west, roughly 300 miles. But precipitation, annual precipitation changes things a little bit. And that's a consequence because when people think of the Dust Bowl, they think it was just dry and dirty out here all the time. It's not so. And people in Colorado, people in the southeastern corner knew it wasn't so. And this is one of the things that bothered people in southeastern Colorado and the plains of Colorado and the Dust Bowl area particularly, is that outsiders just didn't understand. Yeah, it's dirty, it's nasty, and it's terrible here. But every day you don't have a dust storm out there. You don't have a black blizzard. There are days like this, all through the 1930s. And that's a consequence because people in the Colorado plains got tired of Easterners coming out here and writing stories about them, about how silly and stupid they were to stick it out and not give it up and go somewhere else. March of Time. Remember the March of Time films? You go to the theater, you see these little news clips. March of Time people came through here all the time, and the newspapers, all they do is show the bad places. No, come when it's a nice day out here and tell the real story. Part of the real story is that this terminology happens by accident. An Associated Press reporter working for the Washington, D.C. Evening Star in spring of 35, right about the time of that granddaddy of dust storms on the 14th of April of 35, circulating through this country, sending a bunch of newspaper articles back to his newspaper. And very casually, he called this area the Dust Bowl. A couple other articles, he called it the Dust Belt. But that Dust Bowl stuck. The Soil Conservation Service adopted it as sort of its moniker. People picked it up and it just became axiomatic. It was the Dust